Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. We come to you today with a very special guest. His name is Brian Horton. He is a former player, captain, and manager as well. And he's also now an author. Brian, thank you very much for joining us on today's episode. To get the show started, how are you, my friend? How are you keeping?
All good. All the family's good, and I'm watching as many games as I can. Still live in Manchester, so I get to Port Vale and Man City, obviously, which is just down the road. And all my old clubs, Luton, I've done, and Hull. All my old clubs look after me great. When I come to Brighton, they always look after me fantastically well. So I'm a lucky guy.
I'm really glad to hear that you're well looked after. You're certainly very well admired amongst the fans. When I spoke to my dad, Brian, that we were going to have you on the show, he was very excited. You are very much a player of his generation, and he was very excited. I think all the Albion obsessed dads were, weren't they, guys?
Don't make me feel old, please.
Oh, sorry, Brian. That's not a very good interview tactic, is it? Well, forget I said that, and
No,
we'll move swiftly on.
that's joking. That's fine. Great memories, and obviously did you say your dad and the Golston, and it's great talking to you guys, and it brings back fantastic memories for me.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that. So I suppose, Brian, we should start at the beginning in your life as a professional footballer, because I imagine it's very different to how things are now. Obviously, now there's lots of elite academies, and children go into these academies very young. Tell us the story about how you became a professional footballer.
Well, I played for my town, Cannock, and then I played for Staffordshire Boys, Birmingham District Boys. I was spotted by Walsall, so I went to Walsall as an apprentice. I thought I was doing well. Second year, I'd broken into the reserves, and for whatever reason, they decided not to keep me for the third year. So bitterly disappointed, obviously, because that's all I wanted to do was play football. So I was very small in those days, So I went on the building trade with a cousin of mine and played non-league football for Ensford Town, which is again my local town. Good standard. They were all ex-pros, and it was a tough league. So 17 to 21, I was there, and then spotted by Port Vale. Gordon Lee, God bless him, he passed away not long ago. He was from Ensford also, so people were telling him about me, and he came to watch me, and obviously liked what he saw, and he took me to Port Vale in 1971.
No, that's amazing. Hi, Brian. I'm Joe. It's so lovely to meet you, and I echo what Tom said. And you joined Brighton from Port Vale, as you just mentioned, in I believe it was 1976. So how did that move come about? Moving from up there down south.
Well, it was unbelievable. We were playing Crystal Palace on the Tuesday night, and deadline day was on the Thursday, the last Thursday in March, and I'd heard the clubs were watching me, but nothing had developed. And then just before the game, I got a message from someone saying Terry Venables sent a message to say, "Don't sign for anyone. Crystal Palace are coming for you in the summer." So I thought, well, that's nice. But anyway, we got a draw that night. Normally we were in the relegation scrap because we were free transfers and non-league players at Port Vale. But a great team spirit. Learned an awful lot of Gordon Lee and how he run the football club. And then Roy Sproson, who I played with, he took over. He was the manager at this particular time. Anyway, we were this season we were up there with Brighton, Millwall, Palace, and it was a change for us to be up there. And I scored a penalty. We drew 2-2, big crowd. And I came in after the game, and Roy Sproson said to me, "We've sold you to Brighton today. We need you to go to Brighton. The chairman wants the money. The fee was £30,000. All the players knew on the way down, except me. The team, he told them on the team coach that what had happened, and so I said, "Well, what about if I don't want to go?" And he was going to tell my wife on the way back home. Going back from South London to Stoke, Stafford near Stoke, and what you're going to do? Drop off and tell it at 2 o'clock in the morning something's happened. It was just a crazy situation because nobody was on mobiles then. So anyway, that's what we did. There was a stretch Granada waiting for me to chauffeur me to Brighton to meet Peter Taylor, the manager. I met him in the Metropole, and he offered me terms in the Metropole. We were watching a bit of football, and he offered me terms. Said, "I'll make you captain of the football club if you come. We've got Shrewsbury at home tomorrow. Get your wife down to have a look round." Anyway, they got hammered. Seagulls got hammered 4-1 on that Wednesday night at the Golston. So we've come in Thursday. And we didn't have agents in those days. There's no agents. All we got a little bit of help from the PFA, Professional Footballers Association. So I'd rang them and said to him, what do I ask for? And he's offered me some money, but what? We said, try and push him on the basic wages, try and push him on a bit of signing on fee. Never had signing on fee at Port Vale. So anyway, he comes in on the Thursday afternoon, my wife's there, and we're talking, and he said, everything okay? I said, well, we're about a bit more on the basic, we're about a bit more on the signing on fee. And he said, listen, there's the ticket back to Port Vale. If you're not accepting what I'm saying, just off you go back, and that's the end of it. And so I said to him straight away, where's the contract? He'd offered me a good contract. I was just trying to push it. Anyway, so I signed, and as you know, he left at the end of that season. Brighton missed out. We missed out on there was no playoffs then. We missed out on promotion. Peter left to go back with Brian Clough. And then Alan Mullery came in, and we got on great. He made me captain, and obviously we went on to do fantastic things with Alan.
So Brian, like you mentioned there, when you joined the Albion, you got given the captaincy. How did it feel, right off the bat to get given such a massive responsibility? How did the other players react? How did you find it all?
They were brilliant. I mean, some experienced players there. Joe Kinnear, Phil Beale, Dennis Burnett, Fred Binney, some very, very experienced players. But I'd been a captain all through my life, all through my schoolboy days. From 11, I'd been captain of the school team, captain of the district, captain of Port Vale. So I like being captain. I like that leadership bit of it, So I just did what I had to do. I just acted myself and didn't pretend to be anybody else or whatever, and just try to be normal. And I'm a moaner. I mean, I was an eternal moaner as a captain, as Muller, as Laura would have said, and Fozzie would have said, and Teddy Maybank. People who, well, they were all good friends because we had such a good team spirit, and they used to moan back at me, and that's how I liked it, because we when I got out on that pitch from 3 o'clock to 4:45, whatever, all I want to do is win the game. So if I've got to have a go at Teddy Maybank or Fozzie or whatever, and if I give the ball away, they have a go at me, then that's what it's about, really. But Alan Mullery now was fantastic. Ken Craggs was his number 2, who passed away a couple of years ago, and Ken was instrumental in the partnership, because Alan was he was like me. He was a shouter and a baller, and if we got beat, he'd get into us, where Ken was the milder one, where you could go and have a chat with. Maybe the gaffer, sometimes you couldn't even speak to him after we've lost. You know what I mean? It's one of them. He used to throw me a cigar up against. I smoked at that time. I don't anymore, but I used to have a cigar, and that was the only praise he ever used to give me. If I played well and we won, he used to throw a cigar up sometimes, and that was it. He was a hard taskmaster, and he wanted us, like he used to say, "I'll tell you once, I'll tell you twice, maybe then that's the end." And that's how he was. And I like that, and that's how I carried my, in the future when I went as player manager. That's how I carried on.
Yeah, and we'll talk about your time as a player manager and as a manager in just a little while. But before we go on to that, you made about 218 appearances, according to the internet, at least, in your 5 years at the club. In that time, you must have played some fantastic games against some fantastic opposition. Were there any particular games in your mind that really stand out as either just the occasion of it all, or were there any teams that were just brilliant to play against?
I think the first one was getting promotion, because I'd never had a promotion at Port Vale. We were 3rd division all the time I was there, and as I said, just pushing for promotion that my last season there. And it was 34,000 at the Golston the night we beat Sheffield Wednesday to get promotion from the old 3rd to the 2nd. 34,000 people. It was fantastic atmosphere. Loved playing on there. Frankie Howard, the groundsman, had the pitch. The pitch was lovely to play on, and we had a good side. Wardy had obviously come from Burton around about the same time as me. He was scoring goals for fun, and it was just a pleasure to play. We loved the place as a place to live, and it was just an unbelievable season. So that game against Sheffield Wednesday was probably the first one. The biggest one for me was the win at Newcastle, when we'd missed out on goal difference for not going up the following year to go in the big time for the first time in the club's history. And then we had to go to Newcastle on the last Saturday to win again. If we win, we get promotion. I scored the first goal with a header. Wardy scored. Jerry Ryan scored. about how many thousands of seagulls had gone up there on the trains and whatever, and then the scenes next day and round the ground and round Hove and Brighton. It was just fantastic time. So those two games spring to mind in terms of being successful and winning a game to get you something.
It all sounds incredible, and there's so many stories that you've sort of mentioned there that my mum's told me about, like getting up to the first division for the first time in the club's history. We've spoken a little bit about the opposition. So how was it playing with the players you played with? Was there any standout individuals that you still remember really well? As you say, you've got a good few friends from your time at Brighton.
I think what we had, and I think what we did, and we used to go out together. We used to play golf together. The chairman was unbelievable, Mike Bamber. He used to call me Capitano. He used to call Mark Lawrence a Marky baby, and so we used to have a little bit of rib at Loro about that. But Loro was the best player. He was a fantastic footballer and a great lad as well, which they all were. We just got on unbelievable together. And the chairman would say to me, because he had his office at the Goldstone at that particular time, and I'd see him around the ground, and he would say, "Okay, Capitano, anything you need?" And I'd go, "We could do it a golf day, chairman." And he'd go, "Right, okay, you organise it, I'll pay for it, or the club will pay for it, whatever." He probably paid for it, he was a wealthy guy. But what he said was, which is fact, he said, "But the directors have got to play and the staff have got to play." And that's what we used to do. So we'd play. And sometimes we used to play the Dyke, and as a team. We went out together, went out after winning a game. I never went out if we lost. I couldn't go out if we lost. To go around Hove. We used to go in Hove Place a lot for a drink, and then down to Alforno's a lot in town. And we used to go a lot together as a team, with the girls, and it was just success after success after success, and it was just sad the way it all ended in a way. But football's like that, isn't it? So I'd gone from 1976 to 81, and we had to win our last 4 games in my last season there to stay in the league. So we won at Sunderland, we beat Leicester, we won at Palace, and we beat Leeds on the last Saturday. So we won the 4. We stayed up, which was fantastic, and then Alan Muller resigned over the fact that the club wanted to sell Mark Lawrence in a different way that he wanted to. I just moved into a brand new house at that time that Wardy had, so I bought that off the club in Hove Place. Goodness knows what it's worth now. I dread to think. But I'm not long moved in there, and I'm sitting there. My wife's at work, and I'm sitting sunbathing in the back garden. We've stayed up, and they always used to take us away at the end of the season, to wherever we went, Magaluf or Palmer, or the club took us there somewhere at the end of every season. Anyway, we'd done that, and we'd come back, and I'm waiting for the next season, knock on the door, Alan Muller, and he just said, "I've resigned. Chairman wants to do it a different way to me," and I've told him I'm resigning. And he said, "They want you to go." John Gregory, Mark Lawrenson, Sully went to Fulham. And in my opinion, they split up a very, very good team, a really, really good team. So then I went to Luton. So obviously I had to sell my house in Hove. I could kick myself. I should have kept it. But it was a wonderful place to live, and the people were just fantastic. The fans, 34,000 people in every home game, and it was just a brilliant atmosphere,
Yeah, I can imagine. One thing I definitely do agree on is I hate going out for drinks when I've lost. I play football on a Saturday afternoon, and when the boys are like, "Oh, let's go for a drink," match debrief, I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I hate losing, hate it with a passion. But like you mentioned about the players at our club, who is probably the best player you come up against, even at your times at Vale, Luton, Brighton? Anyone stand out?
Yeah, there's a couple that stand out, but Graham Souness, obviously. Liam Brady was a fantastic footballer, and that was our first game against Arsenal in the big league, and we got beat 4-0 at the Goldstone. So that was like welcome to the big boys sort of thing, Graham Souness, I said. The best player that I would say was Brian Robson, and I played against him when he was a young boy, not a young boy, but a young man at West Brom. So I was quite an experienced player as a young player, and he did nothing but moan all the game, probably a bit like me. So he was a moaner, I was moaning, I was telling him to shut up because we were beating him. And I see him many times because he's obviously Man United, and I'm going to sit in every. But he was a fantastic footballer to play against. He would test you all the time, and I used to like to get forward in that role that I had at Brighton and get goals and everything. But he would go past you probably 10, 12 times a game, and you're trying to stop him, and then I'm trying vice versa to do the same to him. But I would, if I had to have one, I would say Brian Robson.
A very, very good choice, I think, Brian. So jumping ahead a little bit, let's talk about like Brighton now. I think we could all agree that Graham Potter has done, a pretty remarkable job at Brighton. He's got them playing some excellent football. Would you have liked to have played under Graham Potter in the style of football he played in the current modern era, or do you think it's just too different to the way the game was played back in the 70s and 80s?
Well, I can swing this round here because Graham Potter played for me at Macclesfield Town. So there we go. So he was a smashing lad, good player, left wing back, good footballer, very quiet, just got on with the football. And what he's done is absolutely incredible. And the way he's done it, went to Hull University to get a degree in psychology or whatever it was, and then went and earned his stripes abroad, taking a team from the 4th division to the top division, beating Arsenal in the league, which I'm always pleased about because I always like beating them. And and he's obviously gone to Swansea, done a fantastic job with the football he was playing. Brighton of Albion have seen what he's done there, and the recruitment of players, and I've got a list of players in front of me here, the recruitment of players and the recruitment of Graham Potter and his staff is just absolutely unbelievable. And they're playing some great football. I love watching them. I saw him last season when I came down to the Brighton Man City game when I did my book signing in Hove and at the ground. And so I just had 5 minutes with Pep Guardiola on the side, and because I just done that interview at the ground, and then Graham had come and said hello. I'm delighted for him because he's such a nice guy, and he's doing it the right way. He's obviously the psychology, probably our psychology. And I used to say to the gaffer, because he used to go mad and I used to go mad. So is that the right way? I don't know. I managed over 1,000 games, so I couldn't do everything wrong. But on the other side of that as well, when I went to Luton, so I've had the gaffer Alan Murray for 5 years, and I liked his style. I could cope with what he wanted, his demands. Some people can't, so he would replace them. And so, but when I went to Luton with David Pleat, then that was complete contrast. He was probably a bit more like Graham Potter is now, very calm. If we got beat, would never even go mad or whatever. He'd take the positives out of it. So I had both sides of Alan's management, which I loved, and David Pleat's management, and he changed the way I played as well. Instead of being 4-4-2, I sat in front of the back four and played in a 4-3-3 role. So completely different role, completely different way of playing, a completely different way. So Graham Potter, he's just getting. I'm delighted that they won at Man United, and that's a fantastic win. And as close as we got to that, I scored a goal in the FA Cup. We drew 2-2 at Old Trafford. We 2-0 up. We drew 2-2 in the bits in the replay. But so that was the first win ever, wasn't it, for the Seagulls at Old Trafford? And then he's followed it up at home, and the win at West Ham. Got some good players, and they play. You can see they enjoy playing playing for him and his staff. And if that's the case, then it's easier when people are enjoying playing for you and looking forward to the next game. But I've got to say to the Bloom family for what they've done for Tony Bloom, because his granddad was my vice chairman when I was there with my Bamba. So I've known the Bloom family all through the lives, and Paul Barber's done a great job. The recruitment people have done a great job. The whole club is on a high, and I'm so pleased for everyone, and as much as the fans, because the fans are fantastic fans. As I repeat again, 34,000 at the Goldstone. It was electric.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. It's so lovely to hear like obviously an ex-player looking at us now, and because you're such a massive part of that history. And I just want to touch on Graham Potter. As you say, you managed him at Macclesfield. How was he as a player in and around the dressing room? Was he very much the same as he is as a coach?
Yeah, quiet. We had Big John Parkin, who was the leader of the show. He was like a big Fozzie, if you like, that dominated the dressing room. I'm not saying Fozzie dominated the dressing room all the time, but Fozzie was a bit like that, and Teddy Mago. But you need characters, don't you? And John Parkin was the character in the club, where Graham was one of the quieter ones. And if that's the way you are, you can't change, can you? It's no good trying to be something that you're not, And I just watch him and. And I hope he does go on to do good things because he deserves it for the way. But he's having lots of good help from within the football club and of his supporters. At one time last year, because if the results aren't going well, there's always little, bits of backbiting, whatever. But he's come through it. But you will have bad times as a manager. You ain't going to go through your career without having a little bit of a bad time. So, but he's got Danny Welbeck flying again, isn't he? And some of the footballer, they're talking about Dunk now playing for England. And why not? Why not? Why Fozzie played for England, played for Laurel, played for Hera. Why not? And Dunk's one of the best centre halves in the country at this present time.
No arguments here in regards to that. No arguments here at all. So let's talk a little bit, Brian, about your transition into a manager, because I believe I'm right in saying that you were a player manager at Hull City. So how did you find that transition of going from player to manager?
First season easy because I played the same system I played at Luton, and I played a lot of the games. So I played as the older midfield player. Changed the system from a 4-4-2 to 4-3-3. We got promotion in my first year, which is great. And then the chairman, Don Robinson, who was self-made multi-millionaire from Scarborough, and he bought the club when it was really struggling, and he turned it round and he employed me, and we got promotion my first year. And then he came up with this idea: I wanted to be a director as well. So I said, I don't know, I don't want to be a director. I'm playing, I'm managing, I'm out most nights watching players and stuff like that. I want to be a director. No, he said, I want you to be the first one ever. So that's what. So okay, and I learned a lot in the board meetings off him about the financial side of it. So it did me good in a way. But the only sad side to that, it was when he sacked me eventually. I had 5 wonderful years with him, and he shouldn't have sacked me. And I'm saying that myself. We were building a good side. We just I put a load of kids in on the one game and we lost because we couldn't go up, we couldn't go down. We got beat, a few rumblings, nothing much. And he said to me that I'm sacking. So the sad part about that being a director, I had to resign from being a director because before he could sack me. So so it became crazy, But so then I went to Oxford as manager with Loro, but Loro didn't stay over the sale of Dean Saunders. So then I stayed at Oxford for 5 years with Kevin Maxwell, Robert Maxwell's son, who I got on unbelievable. So my first 2 periods as a manager, 5 years at all, 5 years at Oxford. Some don't get 5 minutes now. It's a very, very tough profession. And the sad part about the profession is a lot of the younger managers, English managers that are coming in, the highest percentages is that if they get the sack, they never come back in. That's one of the highest percentages because they've basically failed at the first job, haven't they? The first job they've got. And it's so hard with the pressure of the media now and the social media, and it's on Sky all the time. That wasn't quite as bad as that for me as a manager, but I love being a manager. It was great. So to manage over 1,000 games, and play over 700, it gave me great pleasure.
Yeah, you speak about the manager's pressure that they're under now. So you joined us as manager for a very pivotal moment in our history, and whilst we were playing at Gillingham, obviously after the historic game at Hereford. How was that managing a club you once captained?
It was tough. It was really tough. It was hard getting players because we're training in Brighton, we're playing in Gillingham. So I came for that first period and we stayed up. So then Dick Knight talked me into staying again. So I signed a contract. We stayed again, and I said to him, I'm going to change the club. I'm going to change it dramatically because the whole club is the first team's near the bottom, the reserves are near the bottom, the youth team's near the bottom. So Jeff Wood, who was my number 2, is great because he knew a lot more players down there. So I said to Dick Knight and the board, I'm going to let 18 go on freeze and I'm going to bring 18 in. Wow. 18. I said, yeah, because they haven't got the long losing mentality. These new ones will be coming to a fresh environment and won't be in that situation. I brought Dean Wilkins and Martin Inchwood to oversee the youth policy, because that was almost non-existent, although they were trying. But with the club being in Gillingham, it was difficult for everyone at the club at that time. Anyway, we got it rolling, didn't we? And brought some good players in, and it was the hardest decision. I'll say this again, and when Port Vale came in for me, my family was still in Manchester. My children, who were very young, twins, Matthew and Lucy, were young, and I had a massive decision to make. And if I've said this before, if the club had been at West Dean, and I lived in Withdean, West Dean, and that was my first manager job, West Dean, by the way, playing at that ground, a Sunday League team, I don't think I would have left. And I can say that now, truthfully, and it was so difficult a decision. And maybe if it hadn't been Port Vale where I played for all those years, then maybe I wouldn't done it again for anyone, you know. So that was a tough time for me, and for my family. And when they went back to Withdean, it was the start of the process, wasn't it? Which it needed to be done. They needed to be playing in Brighton, you know. So it's gone on, and now they've got a beautiful ground, thanks to Tony Bloom, and the training grounds magnificent where I've been to, and the whole club is just absolutely flying at the moment, isn't it? Where the seagulls are flying. That's an old saying, I suppose, isn't it? But absolutely, and I'm loving that. But sad part really that I had to leave. Not had to leave, but you know, made the tough decision to leave. And they so when I left, we were in the playoffs position, and they didn't quite make the playoffs. And so, and I look back and think, would we have made the playoffs? I think we might have done. And no, it's no disrespect to Jeff Wood and other people that took over, because they were, and I love the time, but M23, M23, M25, M2, to go and play a home game. So I've got players living in Southampton, in London, so they're training in Brighton, and then match day to there. It was tough for those boys as well. No, not just me.
So like you just touched on there, Brian, like obviously whilst we're obviously away from Brighton playing in Gillingham, how did the players and yourself find that? That must have been extremely difficult for them, and also trying to sell the club to players as well, because like you said, you know, you're training in Brighton, you're going and playing games in Gillingham. That must have been very tough in the recruitment side of things.
Massively, absolutely. So I had to look for people, obviously, mainly from that area. But so say I brought somebody in from Brighton, they've got to still commute to Gillingham for match days, haven't they? If I brought somebody from London, which I did, a few players who lived in London, it was tough getting. So, but mainly they were nearly all free transfers. They had to be, you know. So Paul Olsgrove, that was a classic. I signed Paul on a free transfer, and he was going to be my captain. And then Hibbs came in for him. He hadn't played a game for me. The Hibbs manager came in and said, "You just beat me to him. Will you sell him? What price you thinking?" So he said, "We'll give you 90 grand." So he's not kicked a ball for me apart from a pre-season friendly at Lewis. And so I told Dick Knight, and they went to the board, 90 grand. It's a lot of money. It was a lot of money to Brighton of Albion then. Just leave it. Just leave it. Let's try. So I went back and said, no, I'm not accepting 90. And I'm thinking, well, if this falls through, they went, so I will give you 100 then. And no, I'm not taking it. So I'm in now conversation with Dick Knight, and they pushed to 110. So Dick said, we've got to sell him, which is quite right. So 110, I made 110 grand profit straight away. And that player that never kicked a ball for. And I saw him a few years later, and he said, you cost me a fortune, you, by selling me to Hibbs. He said, because I just put a deposit on a house in Hove, and it's worth a fortune now, and I never bought it because I had to go into Scotland again. So he was blaming me for that one, you know. But again, let me tell you that the player, Jeff Minton, was an outstanding player. We had some good players, and the staff were good. It was good times because we'd start to feel the flow of, you know, a bit of success again, instead of being near the bottom, and the youth team near the bottom, and the reserves near the bottom. The whole club needed rebuilding, which obviously they made a fantastic job of doing.
Yeah, you certainly did, and I think you signed, I believe, one of my favourite ever players, whose shirt is hanging just behind me. A young Gary Hart for I think £1,000, and as rumor has it, a set of tracksuits. Um, with Gary Hart went on to make around 400 appearances for the club. A very he had that longevity about him. Did you foresee then when he came in under your watch that he would still be at the club in 20? Well, he'd leave the club eventually in 2011.
Oh, you never see that, do you? And you never know because you come from non-league as I do. I signed non-league players at all, and at Oxford and at Brighton, and that never bothered me because I came from non-league, and I still think there's players in non-league now that could step up. But he was a great lad as well. The squad, doing what we were doing, I think, brought us together. As daft as it seems, we were training at the university on the bottom pitch, and the university pitch was the worst. Well, no, I'm saying it was the worst pitch because we used to train in Hove Park and on the Coral Ground. We didn't have a training ground when we played there and play five-a-side through the trees when I was a player there. So then we're at the university on the bottom pitch. It was like it's a quagmire, and the lads are just getting on with it, no moaning, and they were a joy to manage. They really were. It was small. It was too short a period for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And you've spoken very highly of all of your managerial appearances for several clubs. But if you had to pick a standout moment, what would that standout moment be as a manager?
I think the first one, obviously, getting promotion my first year. So I got promotion as a player first year at Brighton. I went to Luton, we got promotion the first year to the top league. I went to Hull City, we got promotion again. So those promotions obviously are way up there, aren't they? But there's some great games along the way with all my clubs. Luton, we had to win at Man City that final day on my second year. We had to win. They needed a point, and we beat them, scoring the goal in the last few minutes. Raddy Antish scored that wonder goal, and David Pleat skipping over the pitch to kiss me on the cheek and saying, "You can go anywhere you want, Brian." I said, "No, I can't go, for my contract's up today." I signed a 2-year deal, and my contract was up. Imagine doing that today. They got 2 years left. They want another two years now. Not. I mean, if I'd have broken my leg, done my cruciate ligaments that day, that's me done. So he talked me into staying. I stayed again for another 2 years with him, and then I got offered the job. He helped me get the Hull City job after 1 year. Malcolm Allison recommended me, Emlyn Hughes and David, obviously. So good names to recommend me to Don Robinson. So off I went in, which I would plan to do. I did my coaching badges whilst I played in Brighton. As I mentioned, I coached Westdean in the Sunday League, which helped me get used to some lively boys, put it that way, after they've been out on a Saturday night. I'm trying to get them to play on a Sunday morning.
So one thing I would like to just mention, Brian, is when you were at Macclesfield, your time there, how did you find seeing the club sort of having to go into liquidation and start all over again? That must have been quite difficult for you to see one of your former clubs sort of end up the way that it did.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, I was out of work. I walked out at Fort Vale. I know I'd been there 5 years as a player, 5 years as a manager, and the guy that came in, I just couldn't work for him. So I told him I just wanted out, and they let me go. We should do a deal, and off I went. So that hurt me as well because I've been at Port Vale for all those years. So I'm out of work now. I'm playing golf. There's only about 5 or 6 games till the end of the season, and I get a phone call from McTown. Graham Potter would be in that team. John Parkin, and they were going down. We've got 5 games left, and so they said to me, "We'll give you a five. How about this for management now? A 5-game package. So a 5-game package. So if you keep us up, so anyway, I think it might be 6 games. We won 4, drew 1, lost 1, and stayed up. Graham was in that team. So great. I'd done my job. They paid me a bonus. They paid me those 5 weeks' wages. Okay, but people saying to me, "You've just managed Man United and Man City and Huddersfield, and now you're going to go to Macclesfield Town." And I said, "Well, there's only 92 jobs, isn't there? What I'm expected to do? Just turn it down and say no, thank you." So anyway, I kept them up. or we kept them up with the players, and then they taught me to sign a new contract, and we got in the playoffs the following season, and had a great season, and got beat by Lincoln, and then they started to after they sold John Parkin. Lots of players were going for money. Matthew Tipton, I lost about 50 goals with him at two main strikers leaving. Graham Potter, I don't know where Graham went after that. I looked him up the other day because he had some clubs, Graham, as a player and whatever. But so the inevitable happened. The wage bill went down and the whole club went down. And in the end, I left. And it's just sad to see because it was, as daft as it seems, it was a small club, but I enjoyed working there. They're good people. So, as I said to you, there's only 92 jobs. And, you know, what do you do? Turn it down and say, no, I won't work anymore. But because you can't. If something comes up and you fancy the challenge or you fancy it, I just live down the road in where I live now in Manchester. And it's just 10 minutes down the road. And I enjoyed working. The chairman was brilliant. The owners were brilliant. Then the owners went out and the money dried up and blah, 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 blah. And then what happens then is the club almost goes under. But I'm sad to see it go out of the league because we strove very hard to keep them in the league. But they're making a comeback. Robbie Savage has gone in there and they're gradually coming up the leagues and hopefully they can work their way back up into the Football League.
Yeah, definitely. It's always very sad to see you know, clubs drop out of the Football League. You know, we were there very, very close to that ourselves. So I got a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy for the club and their fans to have to go through that. I mean, throughout this chat, Brian, you know, we've gained a wealth of knowledge from you. And talking of a wealth of knowledge, you recently released a book, the 2000 Games book, which came out in 2021, I believe. You know, you've sat here and told us a lot of stories. What inspired you to write your book? Did you feel like you had a lot of wisdom that you needed to share?
What happened was Tim Ritchie was the writer. Tim rang me and said he's a top sports writer. He writes for the Independent. He writes for lots of sports papers anyway. So he rang me and said, "I'm doing a book on Man City managers. Would you do your chapter?" Of course I would. I wouldn't. Man City, so I'm never going to do it. So I said, "Yeah, I'll do that for you." So he came round. We had a couple of sessions where he wanted to ask me questions on my time at Man City. So he went, "Wow, you got some good stories." And he just looked it up. He's a wizard on the phone. As you could probably see before, I'm not the best. So everything we did. I'd mention something at Tensford Town. He'd go bang, and he'd get it up. And so he said, "Well, do you fancy doing a book?" And I said, "Yeah, if we can get a publisher." So we got Pitch Publishing involved, who took it on, and off we went. And I said, "Where do you want to start?" I said, "I want to start at my schoolboy days," which I was saying to you before, with all my mates. And one's just gone off. One of my mates is just trying, as we're talking to you now, just come on a message. I still talk to my schoolboy mates. So what? Well, I'm 15. I'm 73 now. All those years ago, and I want to start there with my schoolboy team. And Cannock, and then through my non-league days, and then through Port Vale. So, and he went, "Right, okay, let's go." And it's a shame that the pandemic kicked in just as we were finishing it, so that stopped a lot of me doing a lot of things to publicise it. But as I say, I came to Brighton and did a book signing. I'm doing quite a few, which they've got around Manchester, Man City Supporters Club branches. I did one last night in Denton, and I go and do a spiel for about half an hour. Sell my books if people want to buy them, and then do a Q&A on Man City. So it goes down well. So that's how I'm doing profiling it as we speak. But it was just something to do, nice to do, to go back on all those memories that we're talking about at all my clubs. And my kids did a piece in it. My wife did a piece in it. So that's good for them as well. So it's just a nice autobiography, basically.
Incredible stuff. And I believe fans can purchase that in the Albion Club shop. So if anyone is going through there at the Leeds game, do pick it up and give it a read.
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon, Waterstones. You can go on, log on and buy it. But it's funny, one about not talking about football. One of the things came up on Twitter yesterday, ask me about the cricket game at Hove. Did you see that? Did you see that question?
It might have got lost in our notifications because they've been going crazy at the moment because we got in a bit of banter with a West Ham fan, so we might have missed it.
Oh, right. Well, can I just tell it you quickly? I've got a picture up in the kitchen of it, and we played Sussex cricket. I used to go down. I love my cricket, and I used to go down if we'd finished training and they were playing at home. I would go down and watch them at the county ground. Got to know quite a lot of the players, and John Snow, Imran Khan, Tony Gregg. They had an unbelievable side. So we played them. We played them at cricket, and we also played them at football. But this one particular game, the cricket, and as I say, my photographs there. So we've got the helmet on, and Malcolm Poskett and myself opened the batting. Sorry. So down the hill at Hove, Imran Khan comes steaming in, and he pretends to let the ball go. He doesn't let the ball go, but the wicket keeper's got the ball in his hand, throws it in the air as though he's gone over my head at about 300 mile an hour, and he throws the ball. And I'm going, oh goodness me, what's happening? So the next ball comes down, and he lets it go. To be fair, but they know what they're doing. It's like, so when we play football, we know what we're doing more than them. And he let it go. How quick do they bowl? 100 mile an hour, 120 mile? I don't know. Anyway, he let it go down, halfway down, and it bounces about 30 foot above my head. Again, wicket keeper standing way back. And so we were joking. And I love watching the cricket now, even now. So we said to them, how do you see the ball? Like 11:30 on a misty morning at the county ground. How on earth? But they said the same to us. How quick do you play football? It's the same things, isn't it? But so me and Posky they battered us. They would murder us, wouldn't they? As we did at football. But they take it easy on us, and we take it easy on them. But it was a great day, you know. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, when I used to play cricket a couple of years back, my friend who's a fast bowler tested out as doing like 85 miles per hour, and I was thinking that is rapid. Like I can't even see it, and I don't understand how even guys facing Anderson and Broad and stuff can see it now. It generally does baffle me. But I've got one final question for me, Brian. So, how do you want to be remembered by the Brighton fans? So, at your time at the club, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I think really being captain of the Albion was a great privilege, and I think a lot of the older fans remember me as being that way. It was fantastic times. That strip that you put on was awesome. I showed all my mates last night and look at this strip, and as I say, I never kept one myself, but just wonderful memories of the place to live, a place to be, the Goldstone, a place to play at, and all those players that I played with in all my time. Andy Rollins, I see when I come down, I FaceTime Teddy Maybank, keep in touch with Loro, Fozzie. I shared rooms with Fozzie all the time, and that was another question about Fozzie. I could tell you lots of stories about lots of the players, but Fozzie was my roommate whenever we played away, and he's miles younger than me. I couldn't shut him up. I wanted to go to sleep on a Friday night, and he would just keep on talking and firing questions, because he was like, when I'm like 30, he's 21 or whatever. But great bunch of players. As I say, we got on unbelievable. So just to remember me as playing in those times as the captain of a club that I'm very proud to have captain and managed, basically.
Yeah, it's so you played for Brighton before I was born. However, through my father, who speaks very highly of you, that's why I bought that match worn shirt, because it just, I could see what it meant to him, and if it meant that much to him, it would mean that much to me, because Brighton is very much a family thing in my house. My granddad supported Brighton; he would have seen you play. My dad supported Brighton; he did see you play. So no, when the opportunity came up to buy a match-worn Brian Horton shirt with number 4, which is my lucky number, I jumped at that chance because it was just a piece of history that I needed to have.
It's always been my lucky number. Blue's always been my lucky colour, and I can, I'm as we're talking now, and you're getting me at it again, because I'm now reliving games that we played at the Goldstone when we beat Palace 3-0 on Boxing Day and I rifled a penalty. I can think of a lot of beating Palace 3-0 away when we stayed up, and that was my second to last game, and that was just a shame that if I had any not regrets, but the way that we left, with us staying in the top division and leaving together. Like I've said, Sully went, John Gregory, me, Laurel, and it was just a shame. And the gaffer going and Ken Cragg's going. It was just sad to have the breakup of that team. It really. I think we could have gone on and done better things with that team. But that's football. That's how it happens, and so I just love my time there, and I love coming back. They look after me, as I've said before. Tony Bloom and the Bloom family look after me unbelievable when I come down. And the fans are always absolutely incredible with me wherever I see them.
That's great. And just for what it's worth, I just want to say a massive thank you for everything you've done for this club, for your days as a player, for your days as a manager. And also thank you again very much for spending some time this evening just chatting to us. We are three younger fans, but, to hear the tales of the 70s and 80s, it helps us build that bigger picture of Brighton as a football club. And as I say, at the beginning of the episode, our dads think very, very highly of you. So no, thank you very much, Brian, for giving us time this evening. And I promise
keep that shirt.
I will do. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Albion Obsessed listeners, on this very special episode where we have chatted to club legend Brian Horton. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content if you haven't done so already. Wherever you may be, whenever you may be, have a great evening, day, or afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Well done.